As we approach 2 years dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been nearly that long since some landlords have received a rent payment. With best intentions in mind, the state enacted an eviction moratorium, so those unable to work or pay rent were not forced to the streets. Tonight, Mary Keeler investigates the impact this is having on landlords who are trying to make ends meet too.
Invested my monies into this.
Dino Goden bought this multi-family home in Syracuse in 2006 with all the landlord stereotypes in mind.
And so I invested in this property as kind of a means to actually contribute to the economy, provide a safe and actually habitable place that, I wasn't going to be a slum landlord.
He offered someone he says he considered a friend one of the units to rent at a reduced price. Now he says that tenant hasn't paid up in at least 20 months. Goden is one of hundreds of landlords in New York State waiting, as the eviction moratorium isn't up until mid-January. A Harvard study from August 2021 shows results from a landlord survey from 10 cities across the U.S., including Albany and Rochester. The research shows, quote, 10% of all landlords collected less than half of their yearly rent in 2020, with smaller landlords with 1 to 5 units most likely to have tenants deeply behind on rental payments, a situation Dino Goden finds himself in right now.
This is still a business, and if the business sinks, then there is no landlord, there is no building, and I've got to sell.
On top of that, code enforcement citations from the city are piling up for bug infestations and plumbing issues. Goden says he can't get into the apartment unit to see what condition it's in, and he can't get any texts or calls back from the tenant inside. Goden shared these with me, notices to the tenant to pay him.
Right.
You were trying to start the process of evicting just this tenant.
Correct.
But right now, he's stuck. Carlotta Brown is a landlord in Syracuse and the president of the Onondaga County Real Estate Investors Club.
Because we own property, we're supposed to have the money no matter what.
She says she hears stories like Dino's all the time, and every landlord who can evict a tenant for not paying rent right now is in a similar boat.
Imagine if you were a restaurant and you were required to feed people for 2 years without getting the money to buy the food. So we're required to house people without ever knowing if we're going to get the money.
There was rental assistance help for landlords, but the ones we spoke with said there wasn't enough set aside to go around.
There's not enough funding for all struggling landlords to kind of make ends meet during this time where they can't evict their tenants.
There is always going to be a need for more money.
Michael Collins works for the city of Syracuse in neighborhood and business development and tells me local landlords are taking on much more than they ever thought they would because of the pandemic.
It becomes a burden because the typical ways to work your way through the process through court with the restrictions on eviction have not been available.
What Dino Goden and Carlotta Brown say would be helpful is getting landlords, tenants, and the city together to talk.
Some person, some office, some resource that really we could go to and actually work to resolve things.
For now, the amount of rent owed is piling up. Goden says he's got a hearing scheduled for late January with the city's codes department to see if he'll have to pay his citations. I did try to reach the tenant for his comment on the situation, but he did not get back to me.
The staggering COVID numbers pushing Central New Yorkers to get their children vaccinated ahead of the holidays. Some had to travel further away from home to make it to today's clinic in Syracuse. New tonight, our Samantha Croston had a chance to speak with parents who were getting their children vaccinated today at Compassion Family Medicine in Syracuse.
Well, out of 100 vaccines available at this clinic today, 55 of them were distributed, showing that there is still some demand for the vaccination for children ages 5 through 11 here in Syracuse.
This was like a miracle. I couldn't believe it.
One woman who is especially grateful for Compassion Family Medicine's vaccine clinic is Victoria Arthur. She drove all the way from Oswego to get her daughter and son vaccinated after trying to find an appointment at Walgreens, Kinney's, Walmart, and even her pediatrician's office to no avail.
Looking for a vaccine for my kids has been very important because they've been quarantined, we're limited, They can't go anywhere, and then they've missed school because of COVID. We've lost so many people because of COVID. This is very serious for me.
It's the first time that Compassionate Family Medicine held a vaccine clinic, but it won't be the last. Medical Director Felipe Diaz says he saw a need in the community, and he wanted to be a part of the solution.
We believe in community health as it being paramount to the health of the individual as well.
All of the vaccines distributed today were free of charge, and all of the healthcare workers who participated are volunteers. Rita Paniagua, a consultant for Compassionate Family Medicine who also serves as a Syracuse Common counselor, says that serving as a volunteer is a rewarding experience.
It's just to meet the family on a one-to-one direct basis and thanking them for doing the right thing, for bringing their children, protecting not only their family and their household, but when you get vaccinated, you're protecting everybody around you.
Arthur says getting her children vaccinated will help her and them regain a sense of normalcy. Her son can feel safer at basketball practice. And as for her daughter,
She can have play dates. We've not been able to have play dates. You know, it's either someone's sick or I don't trust them going to anyone's home.
and Compassionate Family Medicine will hold another clinic on Monday with the 45 vaccines that they do still have left for any family who wanted their child to get vaccinated but just was unavailable to come today.
Joining me this morning is Sergeant Matthew Malinowski from the Syracuse Police Department. Good morning, Sergeant Malinowski.
Good morning.
We were brought this concern by a grandparent who said she witnessed cars passing stop school buses, and we spoke to Syracuse City Schools about the dangers of cars passing school buses, and I want you to hear that this morning.
People aren't even paying attention to the bus. You know, even though it's big and yellow with a bunch of lights on it, they're not even paying attention. But we have had cases where people have intentionally passed the buses. We have had children struck by vehicles, that have, went through the reds. Luckily, no fatalities, but, children have been seriously injured.
Sergeant Matthew Malinowski, hearing that from someone who is a Syracuse City School bus driver who has seen this firsthand, as someone a part of the police department, what does that say to you, and what do you guys hope to do to solve this problem?
Well, even with all the information that we have put out in the community, we do unfortunately still see this happening from time to time. It's really important, like no matter how busy you are, I understand it's first thing in the morning, but passing by a school bus when that stop sign's out is definitely going to be something that we discourage. It is against the law. It's something you get ticketed for and pretty substantial fine in court. But even beyond that, you wouldn't want to be responsible for hitting a child getting off a bus. And we know kids, they're excited, they're running all over the place. So it's really important once you see those yellow flashers start to really just slow down, wait for that stop sign to come out, and just wait for the bus driver to shut that light off. But we really can't stress that enough. It's something that our officers definitely look for. If we get complaints on it, we'd like to know. But at the end of the day, no one wants to be responsible for hitting and injuring a child or anything more serious than that. So it's really important to make sure you're just stopping in the morning. So just give yourself some extra time and not be in a rush to pass that school bus.
Now it's time for your tip of the week. There was a fire at Destiny USA, and you saw something pretty alarming.
So I'm not sure if we've covered this on this show over the past couple of years, so this is kind of a new one. So say if you are on a fire scene, okay, and you happen to come up across a fire hose, I would ask you, if you see this, would true or false, is driving over the fire hose legal?
False. It is illegal. It is interfering with their investigation.
Yeah. Yes, so super important. It's definitely illegal to drive over a fire hose for many reasons. First off, they're very expensive, so you don't want to drive over them and damage them. You could be impeding the water flow and ruining the fire operation and trying to contain that. So we did see a couple incidents of that. That's something, again, you could be ticketed for. Super important that if you come across the fire hose, you have to find an alternative route or wave down one of the firefighters or police officers and try to find a safe way around. But please don't ever drive over a fire hose. It's almost just as bad as parking in front of a fire hydrant. So that would be my one tip of the week, is to avoid doing that.
And clearly I did not know that my director is going to cut to me celebrating that I got the answer right. But that just means that I'm paying attention on the road.
Yeah, you're doing great.
So we know that you have been reiterating this week after week about people locking their car doors. So we have some help for you this morning from another police department that is reiterating the same thing.
We wish you would keep your car locked. We wish you would keep your car locked. We wish you would keep your car locked. We wish you would try. And please never leave it running. And please never leave it running. And please never leave it running or kiss it goodbye. You must play it smart when parking your ride. 'Cause if someone steals it, you'll wish you'd comply. We wish you would keep your car locked. We wish you would keep your car locked. We wish you would keep your car locked. We wish you would try.
Sergeant Matthew Malinowski, that's a tough act to follow, but how important is it to keep your car locked, especially around the holiday time?
Why do I feel like you're going to make me do that on one of these shows?
I do want you to sing something, a little something, but whatever you feel comfortable with this morning.
Well, no, it's a great video, but we can't reiterate that enough. We still continue to see occupied burglaries with unlocked doors and windows. So I really don't know what more. Maybe us singing that to people will get them to do that, but you really have to be proactive about your security, and we're really asking people to lock your doors and windows, because that's one simple way to prevent that crime from happening. So maybe I'll find a way to sing it to people next week.
And we are looking forward to you posting that on the Syracuse Police Department Facebook page as well.
Gotta think about it.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.